Welcome to Entrepreneurs Creating OMG Moments. We have a very special guest, Alan Lazaros, with us today, who is the CEO of Next Level University. I'm so excited to have you here, Alan. Tell us a little bit about how you got started and what was some of those moments that helped you really get to getting this business going into where you're at.
Well, first and foremost, I want to start with gratitude because I do not take it lightly that I'm on a podcast, because I started listening to podcasts 9 years ago and they really helped me sort of reorchestrate and reconstruct my life in a much more positive direction. As far as when I got started, it was actually 10 years ago. I got in a car accident. I was 26 years old. My father passed away in a car when he was 28. So for me, this was extremely life-changing. Physically, I was okay. The car accident was my fault. It was definitely not a fender bender. I thank Volkswagen because I was driving a very safe car. And if I wasn't, I might not be here because I ended up hitting a lift-kitted pickup truck. So everyone was okay. The airbags did deploy and the front end was completely smashed in, but the frame stayed. So thank you, Volkswagen. Holy crap. But that really shook my snow globe, so to speak, and got me really questioning the way I was living. And it was sort of the second chance my dad never got. And that's when I really went all in. I was talking to you off air about how prior to 26 years old, I was very achievement oriented. I was very type A. I was very academically inclined, straight A's in high school, computer engineer at a really prestigious technical college, master's in business, corporate, all these different tech companies. I did very, very well. I was a global top 1% earner in my early 20s. And then I got in a car accident and I kind of realized, okay, so I'm externally successful now, even though I had a very, very, very challenging upbringing. Father passed away at 2, stepfather left at 14, and that's the tip of the iceberg, honestly. But came from adversity, came from nothing. You know, when my stepdad left, I don't even know how I'm going to go to college, bootstrapped my way, financial aid and scholarships, made it happen. Now I'm in my mid-20s going, okay, I'm externally successful. I've got a beautiful girlfriend. I paid off 84 grand worth of debt in a single year. I make almost $200,000 a year. I've got $150,000 in a Vanguard account and all different ETFs and stocks, mostly tech companies. And I achieved a lot of my dreams, not all of them, but a lot of them. And I'm not super fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we all kind of go on this journey where we start off unfulfilled and unsuccessful. And then we end up either successful and unfulfilled or fulfilled and unsuccessful. I see a lot of people in those spots. Those are sort of the first three buckets. And the place that I help people get to now, that I'm getting to now, fortunately in my 30s, I finally got to this sort of fourth stage, which is I'm both externally successful and internally fulfilled. And that starts from the inside out rather than the outside in. And again, a lot of people don't learn that lesson until their midlife crisis. So I always joke, I say I had a quarter life crisis after my car accident. It was the second chance my dad never got. And I went all in on holistic self-improvement after that. And I started a company called Next Level University. At the time, it was called Conversations Change Lives, and it evolved over time. But now it's called Next Level University, Health, Wealth, Life, and Love. And we have a global top 100 podcast now, Level Up Your Life, Love, Health, and Wealth. And yeah, we're heard in 175 countries, and we've got a 17-person team and 100 plus clients, and we produce 54 podcasts, and we have a group coaching program with 11 podcasters in it and all kinds of crazy stuff. So long story long here, my big, oh my God moment, my big aha moment was 26 years old when I figured out, okay, some people have a job, some people have a career, some people have a calling. I didn't find my calling until 26.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't, right? A lot of people, they go for the first job because that's what they're told to do. And that job isn't necessarily the thing that's really their calling and that thing. So I think a lot of people are searching for that calling. What were some of the things that helped you realize what that actual calling was for you?
Regret. Best teacher, I think. And a lot of people have an interesting relationship with regret, and I've been doing this for a long time now. So I started mentoring 10 years ago, coaching 8 years ago. And the reason I'm saying that is not to flex on anybody, but I want everyone to know I've done thousands and thousands of hours with individuals all over the world. I have 28 on my roster currently, 28 people. And so when you see that many people behind the curtain, deeply beneath the iceberg, that many hours from that many countries with that many different cultures, you realize there's these principles that just become very, very clear. And one of the principles that's become very clear that no one really talks about, at least in my opinion, not enough, is what is your relationship with regret? What I've
Mm.
come to understand is that the two best teachers in life are regret and fulfillment. And from an entrepreneurial lens, it's okay, do I regret that choice? Do I regret that team member? Whoa. Or am I fulfilled by having that person on my team? But from a life perspective, when I hit 26, I just had a lot of regrets. And I think everyone does. I think that very few of us actually admit it. And a lot of people say, well, if you didn't go through that, then you wouldn't have gotten here. Listen, I understand. There's something good you can take from everything. That doesn't mean you should continue making bad choices. So the people who say no regrets, I think, are less likely to learn the lesson. I'm not saying to dwell in the shame of regret. What I am saying is have a relationship with regret where you accept it and go, okay, I think regret, I picture my highest self just saying, Alan, hey, in hindsight, that wasn't the best choice. You're out of alignment and you know it. And it's a whisper at first, and eventually it becomes a scream. And you got to listen to that inner voice, that highest self. And fulfillment, I think, is your highest self going, let's go. Nice work. You're in alignment. That sucked, but it was great. So I always use the Stairmaster. The Stairmaster, no one likes it. No one wants to do it. If they do, they're lying. But afterwards, you're fulfilled. And the reason why is because we crave challenge and we crave growth. And I think regret and fulfillment are the best teachers. And when I got in that car accident, that was it for me. That's how I found my calling. Is I just looked at all the regrets I had, and the biggest regret that I had was not striving toward my true potential. And so that really informed my not only the company that I co-founded, but my entire career and my calling. Yeah.
And so now you've figured out this calling, you're helping lots of people. What specifically do you help them with? Who are your ideal clients and how are you helping them?
My ideal client is a heart-driven person who wants to have an impact and who wants to reach their true potential
Mhm.
and who wants a higher quality of life. And that's the metaphorical next level. It's the mountain that gets higher as you climb it. It's an infinite game that never changes, that never stops, rather. And I'm a computer engineer, so everything's math for me. But ultimately, what I do is I help people reverse engineer their goals and dreams through this lens of regret and fulfillment. Because a lot of people are either very successful and deeply unfulfilled internally, I was there, or they're actually really fulfilled. They love their life, but they're not very successful. Very few people have both. I know some engineers from my alma mater. They're multimillionaires. I mean, they crush it, but they're not fulfilled. They're certainly not healthy, but they are
Mhm.
wealthy. And so holistic fulfillment, holistic self-improvement, I think is the acorn that can grow into the redwood of your ultimate calling, as esoteric as that might sound. And in terms of, to bring this down to earth, of what I actually do with my clients. So I'm a business coach. So people come to you for what they think they want, and they stay for what they actually need. And so
Yes.
when you're building a relationship with anyone, and for any entrepreneur out there, and you're in the beginning of your business, number one, I feel you. I mean, I have a full roster now. I was late to this. I'm so sorry. I have back-to-backs all day today. We have an event tonight. We've got a charity event on Sunday. I remember, and that's why I started with gratitude, because I remember when no one cared. In the
Mhm.
beginning, I always say, everyone's going to buy a Coca-Cola because no one knows who Sam is, Sam's Cola. That's how you feel in the beginning. So I hear you. I see you. The beginning is atrocious. Uh, Anyone who says you should be an entrepreneur, you'll have more free time, is lying or unsuccessful, or they already had a career before that they just piggybacked on, or they have
Yeah.
a business partner doing all the work. But anyways, so entrepreneurship's really hard in the beginning. And it's the 227 rule. It takes 2 years to kind of go into debt, 2 years to climb out, and then 7 years to actually be successful. When I first heard that, I was like, not us. It's exactly what happened. But anyways, my point of all that is I've kind of lost track of my original point.
Well, and you brought up the 227. So let me ask a question around that. So what would you say to someone who's at that like 2-year mark, right? They've gone into debt, they're at that point, and you know it's going to take that 2 years to dig out, and then the 7 years. They're at that point, they're like, do I go back and get the job? Do I figure this out? What do you say to them?
Mm. I did remember what I was going to say, but that's an awesome
Mhm.
follow-up question. So I'll try to do both. What I was going to say is, what do I do with my clients? Who I'm looking for is people who are
Mhm.
humble and grateful and who want to work and earn their way to success and fulfillment. And earn it is the key. If there's any level of entitlement or arrogance, you're not going to like me. I'm the ultimate
Yeah.
try hard. As far as what I actually do in coaching, that's what you had asked. Again, over the last decade, it's really honed. But now I've got it broken down to goals,
Mhm.
metrics, priorities, habits, skills, and identity. The bottom of the iceberg is identity. And when people come to you for what they want, they come to
Mhm.
you because they want to grow their business. They come to me because they want to grow their business,
Mhm.
particularly podcasters. What they need is actually identity work, almost always. What they need
Yeah.
is clear goals, metrics, habits, priorities, skills, and identity. And most of us are trying to juggle 12 balls. And I always say that 3 of them are glass, the other ones are rubber. You can drop those. And there's a golden glass ball, silver, and a bronze. And so I have a golden glass ball, which is one-on-one coaching. But ultimately, that's what I do with my clients. Now for the second question, which is the 227. For someone who's at the 2-year mark and they're questioning this, self-awareness is the key. So I used to think self-improvement was good for everybody. And I think it is, but it has to come from a very specific place. I think a lot of people that are into self-improvement, from what I've observed, myself included in the past, is they're trying to be different than who they are. It's like, well,
Mhm.
I don't like this about myself, so I'm going to improve it. I don't agree with that anymore in my more mature years. I'm 36 now. And when I started, I was 26 and I just didn't understand this. Self-awareness needs to come first, then self-acceptance, then self-improvement. So for me, self-awareness is, oh, okay, so I'm actually not that good with people compared to Kevin, my business partner, who's naturally relatable. We'd go give speeches and I'd give a valuable speech, but no one would like me. He'd get everyone laughing and everyone loved him. It's like, I'm not an easily likable dude. Okay, self-acceptance. I'm not an easily likable dude. Kev says you check too many boxes. I think it's the engineering thinking and the reverse engineering and all that stuff, but whatever. Self-awareness, self-acceptance, then self-improvement. Okay, so I'm not that easily likable. I do think in numbers, which most people don't. And I am very statistically rare, so people don't know how to maybe handle me. So I'm going to learn how to communicate effectively in a different modality of thinking, which is words and concepts or vibe or that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Whereas for me, everything's numbers. So for anyone out there who is struggling at the 2-year mark, we got to start with self-awareness. Are you supposed to be an entrepreneur? When I was at the beginning, I didn't know the difference between me and others because I was an ignorant 20-year-old, 26-year-old. As I've learned and coached so many people, we all are wired a very different way. And the principles apply to all of us, but we're all very different. And so a lot of people, it turns out, are actually pretending to have more self-belief than they really have. I'll give you an example. So I was on with a client and I had her close her eyes and I said, okay, envision yourself in a week. And she said, yep. I said, envision yourself in 2 weeks. She said, yep. I said, a month. And she said, it's blurry. And there's some shame there. And I'm like, oh
Mhm.
my goodness. The reason I'm saying, oh my goodness, is as pretentious as this might come off, I've never not thought a decade ahead. More than that, to be completely honest. I'm actually thinking beyond
Yeah.
my own life, and legacy is my number one core value because my father passed away when he was 28. Not everybody can do that, it turns out. They hooked people up to an fMRI and they had them envision and imagine something in the future. And elite performers, quote unquote, what they do in sports is they go into the future in their
Mhm.
mind and then they come back in the present and align with that impression of themselves. And I've been doing that my whole life. So people that are doing that have no idea that no one else can do that. And
Yeah.
statistically, not everyone can do that. Some people are a week, some people are a decade, some people are beyond their own lifetime. My girlfriend's one of them. So I'm a long-term strategic thinker. So I don't wake up in the morning and do what I want. I reverse engineer everything. And so now that's the superpower that I have. So my point, to answer your original question about someone's at the 2-year mark, they're questioning everything, they're struggling, they're doubting. If you're not a naturally born long-term strategic thinker who isn't someone who wants to work every day, who wants to take
Mhm.
all the responsibility for everything, you might actually do better as an entrepreneur in a company. And an entrepreneur, I have a lot of them in my team, are people. Amy Lanius is a perfect example. She's not a natural entrepreneur. She doesn't want to build her own billion-dollar company. And to be completely transparent, she shouldn't. She loves family. She wants to spend time with family. I haven't taken a full day off in 10 years. Okay. And I'm working on Christmas. And I'm happy to. I actually want to. That's the weird thing. A lot of people that are wired like me, they don't talk about it because it's very scary to be so unrelatable. But we don't want to do anything else. We just want
Mhm.
to work. And I think part of that's having a calling, and part of that is just being wired that way. So to answer the original question again, self-awareness is everything for entrepreneurs, and some people are kidding themselves about being an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
And if you're certainty driven and you need any level of certainty basically whatsoever, you
Yeah.
probably shouldn't be an entrepreneur, particularly in the 21st century when everyone thinks it's cool to be, but very few of them are actually successful. Trust me, I'm a business coach. I mean, I see the financial statements, I see the money, I see the behind the curtain. There's the
Mhm.
Instagram, and then there's the
Yes.
amount they actually
Reality.
make,
Yeah.
the reality. And so very few people that you think are successful are actually as successful as you think. They're just really good at marketing.
Yes. And that is very true. And then there's people who are very successful who
Yes.
are great at marketing, but just hide it, right? Like
Yes.
I had an interview with someone earlier and they're like, I made 3.6 million this last year, but I don't want to talk about numbers. I know, they're like hiding underneath that. And so,
They drive
there
a
was, I
Toyota,
think, yeah,
and they love it. Yeah.
yeah. And I think there's, some great points there. I appreciate you addressing that because I think so many people look at it as, you got to push through or it has to be the next thing instead of stepping back and saying, okay, is this the right move for me? Am I completely aligned with this? Do my skill sets, the way that I see things align with being an entrepreneur? Because it is the shiny object, right? It's the shiny object. Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur and have their own business. And I was having a conversation with someone earlier this week that's like, I want to work 2 days a week. And I'm like, then don't start a business.
Do not
And
start a business, whatever
I
you
was like,
do. Yeah.
I can give you some places that you can go coach for a couple days a week
Yeah. Yeah.
and make some money because you do not have time to start a business if you only
Tammy,
work.
this is an interesting reference. I don't mean to interrupt you, but have you ever
Yeah.
seen, and again, it's the stupidest movie ever, but Billy Madison, when he's with the little middle schooler, he's like, cherish it for the love of God, cherish it
Yeah.
for as long as you can, like trying to convince him to enjoy middle school because high school is atrocious. That's how I feel as a CEO.
Yeah.
The CEO role, it sounds awesome, but if the company fails, it's entirely my fault. Like, and everything's your fault. And when we
Yeah.
win, it's the team. So
Mhm.
it's just so much different than what people think. And as someone who's coached hundreds of business owners over the years, I mean, the majority of them just don't make it. And even
Yeah.
with the right coach. So if you have any level of, I don't really want to work hard and that's your truth, do not do it. Seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's better for people to understand up
Yep.
front than to get into it. And I mean, if you want to dabble in something, if you want to like, whatever, go to dabble, but keep your full-time jobs, right? So,
Yeah. Keep your full
and
time job. Keep the lights on.
And, I love the point you made about being that forward thinker versus being the person who thinks more in the day, the month, the week. I do a vision workshop every year. And one of the things that we talk about, like I have people visualize, what they want
Nice.
in 10 years and beyond. And then we break that down into what are our annual goals and then the 90-day and break that down into
Nice.
action steps.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that I talk to people about is I have them go through this exercise first. And then we see how many of each like 1 year goals, 3, 5, 10-year goals they have. So you can tell what type of thinker they are by the types of goals they're
Yep.
setting. Like some people won't have any 10-year and beyond goals.
And
And
they won't,
okay,
some of them won't have anything measurable. It's all
yes.
like squishy. And that's what
Uh-huh.
I've noticed too, is some people are very process oriented so that they're process goals. Like I want to do the
Yeah.
gym X amount of times versus results people that are, I want this weight. And
Right.
and that's very fascinating too. Sorry to interrupt you, but I love that
Yeah,
workshop.
no,
That's
you're
so
exactly
powerful.
right, and I think it's revealing being able
Yes.
to go through that exercise with people and seeing the types of things they come up with because it tells you so much about how they think and who they are, and there's times where if you are that type of like I can only see a day, a week, a month, or maybe even a year ahead of you. You need someone that can come in and help you visualize and really set that bigger goal. I love that. This has been so helpful. Like, if there's like one tip you want to leave people with, I know you shared so much already, but is there any other tip or one last thing you want to share with everyone?
Uh, entrepreneurs. I'm always trying to think about who I'm talking to. I don't think there's anything more important than personal responsibility,
Mm,
humility, and self belief. And humility and self belief rarely go hand in hand. The people who believe in themselves the most, who are the most optimistic by nature, that was me. A lot of people thought I was very arrogant. And I think in hindsight, there's some truth to that, but more of it was
yeah.
mathematical certainty that I'm calculating and the ability to actually visualize the future. And I realized that if I have level 10 self belief and only level 8 humility, I'm going to appear level 2 arrogant, particularly to someone who doesn't have a lot of self belief but thinks they do.
Hmm.
Uh, the one tip I'd leave everyone with is, what is your actual level of self belief, not what you would say socially. Because what I've found is the people who believe in themselves a lot unconsciously. My COO Christina, she's a perfect example. She believes in herself so freaking much. She takes action, but she would never say, "I believe in myself a ton." She's very humble, and you would never know that she believes in herself way more than most people. Then there's people who are very scarce and they don't believe in themselves and they doubt themselves a ton behind the scenes, but then in public they act like they have tons of self-belief. And we all
Yeah.
know those types of people that are puffer, I call them puffer fishes. They're actually very small fish and they know it, but they puff up to make it seem like they are bigger than they really are, when in reality it's mostly ego. And I always say, if
Hmm.
you don't think this is true, everyone think of someone who has an opinion about everything, who thinks they know everything, who has so much certainty and confidence publicly. Why would someone with level 10 self-belief have level 2 goals?
Hmm.
Right? And why would they take only level 2 action? The truth is a lot of it's delusion, it's not real. So the last tip is, what is your true level of self-belief? Be honest. When no one's watching, I'm talking behind the scenes, not
Yeah.
socially. And if it's low, you can build it. But you're never going to work on building something that you think is high.
Mm.
You're never going to work on a problem that you don't think you have. So self-belief, I think, might be the issue for most entrepreneurs. And what I've noticed is the entrepreneurs that really do believe in themselves a lot, they have no idea other people don't, because everyone's mirroring them. So for the
Yeah.
longest time, I had no idea, because when I was growing up, everyone had huge goals and dreams. But it turns out that's because I love talking about goals and dreams, and they probably felt like they needed to be a part of that. So people are mirroring and matching you, and so self-awareness needs to sort of be behind the scenes, thinking objectively about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely love that. Be real, right? Be real about how confident you are in yourself and what you believe in yourself. Absolutely. Because putting that front on only lasts so long,
And
right? People
if
are
you're an
going to start.
entrepreneur, that will come crumbling down, I promise you, eventually.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, I know you have a special gift for everyone as well. Tell us about that.
Tami, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And this has been I think conversations like this really help a lot of people. And I wish the world was more filled with conversations of substance like this, because a lot of
Mhm.
conversations are very surface level-y and they're not really helpful for people. It's like, oh, let's
Right.
talk about all the things completely outside of our control, right? And
Mm.
this conversation was very much within everyone's control to build a bigger, better, brighter future. So thank you for having me. As far as the gift, we do have a course called the Next Level 5 to Thrive. And this is for someone who's humble enough to sit there and go, you know what? I'm off course. I'm feeling lost. And I always say this: if you're humble and grateful and you have work ethic and grit and you want to
Mhm.
earn your way, earn, keyword, earn your way to success and fulfillment, you're going to love NLU, you're going to love me, you're going to love Kev, and you're going to love this course.
Yeah.
If you have any level of entitlement whatsoever, if you were born into privilege, if you don't have work ethic, and if you have any level of, yeah, wanting big rewards for minimal effort, you're going to hate me, you're going to hate Kev, you're going to hate NLU, and you're not going to like this course, because this course tells you how to actually work. So if you want rewards without work, you might as well shut this off. You probably wouldn't have.
Yeah.
You probably already would have shut it off, to be honest. But the point that I'm making is Next Level 5 to Thrive are the fundamentals that helped Kevin and I in those early years really figure out how to make this thing work, because it was really alarmingly brutal in the beginning. I mean, we went into debt. We could not figure out why we weren't winning, and we didn't understand much of anything about this industry. And now we have been in it for a long time, and we really do have a lot of it figured out. And it really, in hindsight, it's very clear what principles mattered and what stuff was just fluffy nonsense.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing this. This is going to be so valuable to everyone. Go check that out. We will link to that in the notes below. And taking that next step, right? Like this is the real conversation, the real things that are going to help you get results, not just the fluff. And that's what we're here for. So, Alan, I want to hear one OMG moment you plan for this next year. What do you have coming up? What's exciting you?
One OMG moment for the next year. We're doing our first, so we do Next Level Live every year. The first few years were, I think we started it in 2020, and our first hybrid, half online, half in person, was last year, and next year it's going to be our first fully virtual ever in-person event. And when I say in person, what I mean is the team and I and Kev are getting together for a full day event, and it's going to be fully hosted online with the global community. I would say that's what I'm probably most excited for, because it's one full day of everything that matters and nothing that doesn't. Emilia and I,
Mhm.
my girlfriend, we met 5 years ago, and we were at a wedding, and there was a couple there that had been together for 40 years. They did the whole, if you've been together 5 years, come off the dance floor, 10 years, 15. They made it. And Emilia and I asked, like, what made the difference? And they said, everything that matters and nothing that doesn't. Just focus on the things that matter. And I feel like that's a great principle for life. And so that's what I'm most excited for in 2025, is a fully virtual, but us in person, in front
Yeah.
of the camera, in front of the stage with a projector, just going through all of the things that matter and absolutely nothing that doesn't, for a full day with a global community. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing your next level. That's amazing. And I hope you guys go download that, get your course from Ellen because it is going to help you. I will also link to the vision workshop I talked about in case anyone wants to check that out, where you can get a copy of that because it is truly transformational to go through that process and see where you fall because it'll be amazing for you. I thank you so much for being here, Ellen, and we'll see everyone next week on Entrepreneurs Creating OMG Moments.